In 1993, I was invited by Bob McCowan, who was then a vice president at the American Kennel Club, to go to a meeting. And this meeting was for them to try to decide if they were going to offer agility as a class at the American Kennel Club. Some people thought that we were just going to adopt somebody else's program, and we did not. When we were done with 2 different meetings, 2 different sessions, we adopted our own program for the American Kennel Club. We started out with 3 titles, Novice, Open, and Excellent, that you could earn. And now you can earn 79 different titles in agility. So it certainly has progressed through the years, right? But in 1993, I was a consultant while I was still trying to run 3 training schools and a boarding kennel and a pet cemetery and grooming and training and boarding with 117 kennels. And I soon found out I could not possibly do all those things successfully. So I let everything else go. And by 1996, I was then director of agility for the American Kennel Club. At the meeting, at the very first meeting, it was interesting because one fellow brought his program. He had made it all into a book, and he laid it on the table and thought it was just going to be accepted, which it was not. And then we had another side of the coin that was very much for a USDA agility, which was extremely different than the first proposal. And I guess I was maybe the mediator or the person in the middle who maybe made everybody play nice, and we all got down to the point where we could talk and make a plan. So I believe that is how I became the consultant, because I could work with both sides. It's interesting how quickly the process went, because we had our first meetings, we had 2 of them, in 1993. And we had our very first dog show in Houston, Texas in August of 1994. So that's a pretty quick turnaround to make a rule book, to figure out the classes, to have a judge's guideline and teach judges. And we started out with 44 judges because we grandfathered in judges from 2 other organizations. And it's so interesting how quickly we developed our own set of AKC judges by judges' seminars, teaching, and growing the rules, I mean, from the very first book on. So I think it was a very fast process, actually. It was less than a year from beginning to first trial. And I can't say I could ever be more grateful to Gordon and Jane Simmons-Moak, whose club did the sponsoring down in Houston, Texas. And they did all the heavy labor, brought all the equipment, and AKC generously had a whole reception for everybody there with cheese and crackers and whatever. It was quite an event for our first agility trial. In the beginning was a mixture of equipment from 2 other organizations. And that quickly changed as we needed to address all breeds. So we started out with 4 heights. We quickly went to 5 heights. And that was so no dog had to jump more than 2 inches different than their shoulder height. I believe that was one of the reasons AKC became so successful quickly, because it addressed all kinds of dogs. And the process of saying, I accept that change and I accept equipment changes, people were right there. And it cost equipment makers money, because all of a sudden we'd say, well, we don't want that piece of equipment, but we're going to get this because it's more dog friendly. And we had people like J&J Dog Supply and Max 200 who were so supportive and did any number of those things. I believe agility had that mindset for growth changes because of my years of experience in obedience and confirmation. And I think I was in a process of always learning how to make an event better by other people's past issues. And so hopefully that first rule book covered the rules we had to make, but the great progress to me was at that time we developed a committee that met every 3 years, and those people had such good suggestions. I was lucky enough to hire some really good minds like Dan Deggy, who was our first world team coach, and a great set of people who became the reps and helped me. And I think I was always receptive to new ideas. And I believe we grew from 3 titles to 79 because we were very willing to grow and accept new ideas and changes. In the process of growing all of our titles and the different classes, we got to the point of having a Master Agility Championship, because it took nothing flat for the competitiveness in agility to come out in people and dogs. And they enjoyed it so much because it's such a work with your dog type of event. It is bonding that is very deep in agility. And in agility, they are as happy coming across that finish line, whether they qualified or did not qualify. And that, I think, is one of the best pieces of agility. They don't always qualify. In fact, maybe not even 50%. And probably if you look at the stats, it might be 25%. But they still come out happy and looking forward to coming back and running again. And I think that's one of the most positives I can tell you about the sport of agility. So in the beginning, the board of directors of AKC thought we were trick dogs in the park. And it took me quite a while, with the help of Bob McCowan, to convince them that this was different and that these were very skilled athletes. And so as things changed and we got more support within, I did not have a budget. They didn't understand what we were, and Purina Dog Food supported me, and pretty soon Imes Dog Food did, but it took a while for me to get those kind of sponsorships. I had the support of so many people that backed me, volunteered, helped in that beginning. There were not paid positions that made this a success. And I believe you can't say one person did it, because it took a village. And thank goodness wonderful people stepped up to do it. There was a lot of opposition in the beginning because you had 2 other agility organizations that certainly were not going to be happy about this happening. And I belonged to one of them strongly at that time. And so, yes, I lost some friends over it. And a lot of it, too, in the beginning was so hard because mixed breeds were not allowed. And my mission at the first meeting, because at that time, border collies were not allowed either. And so my mission when I went to the first meeting was to get border collies fully recognized. And that first night of the meeting, I called my husband and I said, I don't think I can stay here because they've already flat out told me they will not recognize border collies. And so now you can see how far that has come as well. Eventually, the upper staff of AKC realized the salability of agility, and then the marketing department got in, and then the publicity department became part of it. And I was then taken to Ellen DeGeneres TV show, Fox 9 Morning News, and we performed right on the streets on Madison Avenue, and things grew rapidly as the TV coverage became very obvious to AKC that this was a successful sport. So if you want to know how well I knew my mailman, I will tell you, because I worked out of my home and then flew constantly to different shows to supervise, to do judges seminars. So in order to keep a handle on the entire country, everybody had to send me a judge's report, Everybody had to send me a chairman's report, so I knew the judge did a good job if I wasn't there, or one of the reps. And I had to have all the courses to make sure that my judges used the course that was approved by their course design rep in that trial. So I had a lot of mail at my house. I actually removed the doorbell from my home because it had my dogs barking constantly. So I, to this day, do not have a doorbell in my house. The direction Agility is moving is a very competitive direction, as well as addressing the lower end as well, because we went from regular classes 2 inches from a shoulder height to the preferred classes to address handicapped people and older dogs or older people, and it became the preferred agility championship, the preferred classes, which is another whole new set of titles. And so people with young dogs or old dogs can go into that. And then they have, because of the World Team Competition, they have morphed into Premier Cup, which is a whole new thing that AKC Agility has become involved in. And that's highly competitive by invitation. Yes, we had our national championships, but I believe one of the best championships called the Invitational that developed, which is in Orlando, Florida with the other. And that also addressed every breed. So in placements, it has to be all different breeds. And so it didn't give any one breed an advantage over another. And that also has helped grow the program. What do I think in the future? I think that so many people are going to Europe to compete now. I cannot believe the number of training schools that have been built in different states in the country. I only see the sport continue to grow. They are at, I think it's like 1.5 million entries now per year. I think I looked up some stats in January of this year. I believe it was 231 trials for agility, and it was 97 trials for confirmation, but of course they have many more dogs at their trial. And I believe it was 193, if I'm remembering it correctly, for obedience, which has much less numbers added. So you can see the growth is still there. Certainly the maintenance of what we have had through the past. Even throughout COVID, they came back strong. So all of that says the future of agility is very bright. The competition end is right up there and quite heavy. And happily, AKC influenced FCI to lower their biggest jump height from 26 to 24 inches, which made us all extremely happy, and the influence was a positive on FCI. My growing up years were in Duluth, Minnesota, and they have a couple of great training schools there. And in fact, one of the gals was one of my hires for being an agility rep. I think that I'm prejudiced about the fact that I think that Minnesotans are hard workers. And so I also hired 2 other ones from here through the years. They weren't all together. But so 3 of my agility reps were from Minnesota. One of my hires was from Las Vegas, and he worked for a number of casinos. He was the IT guy. He still works at AKC, has moved up through the ranks. His name is Steve Herwig, and he is extremely successful at creating programs now for obedience and agility. And I believe he might be doing some of the other performance events, I'm not sure. But he's a terrific guy. And of course, Carrie DeYoung is the one who replaced me as agility director. And she is phenomenal, from California, used to work for Disney. So every time I hired, I had to pull somebody away from a good job. Gail Storm, she was a vet tech. And so each one had expertise that I needed to grow the program. One was Rick McIntosh. He was a forensics expert. And like it or not, when you have dog shows and a wide variety of people, you need an expert in the field of police enforcement, forensics, and different things. And so each one gave me something I really needed. Carrie DeYoung was HR for Disney. Very needed. And she did all the things for the Mighty Ducks. She brought in all the hockey players and did all these different things. And so their expertise helped me greatly. Dan Deggy had his own architectural firm. So he could teach course design like nobody else could teach course design. But I had many people who volunteered, like Stuart Ma, long before I could have employees, before I had a budget to hire employees. So it was myself and volunteers who had to do course review in the beginning and teach it. I probably want to just most say thank you to all the people throughout my 14 years that helped me from the beginning to the end. And some of them are still there. They might be retired, but some of them are still there helping in agility, which I think is such a positive. I guess I have to say I've been blessed. I have organizational skills that expanded into a sport that I hope has influenced and made a lot of people happy. In 1996, we also got a request by FCI to compete in the World Agility Championship. FCI had a very different standard for breeds, so that kind of went against some of the confirmation end of things. And so that was something to be reconsidered. We were not allowed to be a member of FCI because we, as AKC, would not accept their breed standards. Going to a board of directors meeting with Bob McCowan, and Bob McCowan was a very forceful man, and he very much supported it. I can't say how much he did with some slamming on the table movements, and they gave in, is basically what it was. And of course now they have such full support of AKC for all the teams that go. And now there's 3 teams that compete, small, medium, and large. And they go to the European Open, which is the same. And now they have a European FCI Junior Handlers competition, like they're going to Belgium this year. And I think there's 22 juniors going to go to the Junior Championships this next July. So yes, it grew from what in the world are you asking of us to, oh my gosh, look at this. So the first one, which was in Morges, Switzerland, beautiful country. The first time we went in 1996, we were only allowed to bring a large dog team. And we were quite successful, and we learned so much, and I think I was wide-eyed the entire trip. We actually flew in to Zurich, and then we marched with our dogs in a parade up to the show site. Extremely different than the way it is now. It was so unknown factor. And just to know how to fly 4 dogs in the belly of the plane over there took a lot, and we figured it all out. Today, everybody flies to Europe and competes 2-3 times in the year to get good experience. It was nothing like that back then. And so I was the coach, it was me, and it was 4 people. And no, it was 5, I guess there was 5 of us that we went. We had an alternate in case somebody got hurt. And one was a golden, okay? It wasn't just border collies. And one was a Malinois, a Belgian Malinois, and some border collies. And it was a great experience, but certainly beyond my expertise. But the 5 people who went were all experts in the field. And we did a great job. Then the next year I was allowed to hire a coach, which was Dan Deggy. And Dan did it through the years, and then Nancy Guys, who is the current coach, took over, and she has done a phenomenal job. Her ability amazes me and continues to amaze me, how she brought these teams to where they are now. They've done a lot of winning. She's done a great job, and it's a hard job. It is a job you have to pull together a lot of people that maybe have competed against each other for a long time, and all of a sudden they're teammates. Well, I did some of the practices right here at Animal Inn, and one year I hired the fellow who helped the NHL hockey pick team members, and they'd be getting some contracts, right? So they had to make sure they picked the right guy. I learned so much from him about it might not be the best dog and handler, but who has heart, who has the drive, who will follow through even if it isn't going well. And people like that help me know what people to pick. And Nancy does all of that now. And she picks the right people and turns them into a team and makes them all go together and work together, and then maybe go back home and compete against each other, but over there, they're a team. Then the next year we went to Denmark, and you get to know people. And you have to remember, at that time, there was not a lot of interaction between AKC and FCI. And we got to know the English team very well, and they're great, okay? And they also were on their board of directors, their captain, Steve Croxford. He is still there to today. And so we started talking about, would this ever be a possibility that the US would be invited to compete at Crufts? Because at that time, we were not, nor was it on the radar. And I believe Steve was the one who got us to start that ball rolling, and we did get the formal invite in 2004. So I selected a team, one dog, one handler, that was it. Well, that's what I mean by a team, not a team of 4 like it is at the World Championship. And so I took a gal and her dog, and we went to England. Before it was as easy as it is today, it was as difficult as could possibly be in 2004. And they actually quarantined her dog for 12 hours. We went through so much to get that dog there and to the dog show. And I always think back, we were very successful. We didn't win, but we were very successful, proved we were worthy of competing there, and then have gone each year since. Of course, there was COVID, not during that time. And I always selected someone from the large team, because they jumped 26 inches there, and at that time, that's what they did at FCI as well. They have changed that now, but at that time, you had to have a dog who could compete at 26 inches in one day, very hard competition, and then if you did get in finals, which we always did, happily, you had to go under the hot lights at night right before Best in Show. So whoever you were taking, you better know that they were going to represent us well, which they did. I think the linkage between the world team and Crufts was they saw that FCI accepted us and that we could compete at their events, and then we got invited there. It was fun too, because I got to judge their fly ball as one of the judges, and also Pat Krause, who she has since passed away, but at that time was a VP, and I went and she judged their obedience, and I was her ring steward in obedience as well. So I love Crufts. That's still a dog show that if somebody hasn't seen it, you need to put that on your wish list somewhere down the road. It is an amazing show. I have been blessed with the ability to organize, to see a bigger picture, to work with people because I love working with people. And I have been blessed with people finding it difficult to say no to me. And I get teased about that all the time. Well, have Sharon ask because then they'll do it. And so I have been blessed with that ability. And I think there's quite a few people who would support that and say, oh no, here she comes, or oh gosh, Sharon's calling me, now what? And you know what, they always said yes. They always worked hard. I believe my background for starting trainings, I had 3 training schools, and I had a drill team with over 40 people. I was very active from the very beginning in, well, first it was sand hurdle racing, which is out of California, and then I morphed into the fly ball. And we have been extremely successful in fly ball. All of those different organizations taught me how to work with people, how to succeed, how to see the bigger picture, and I believe that's one of the background things that helped me succeed in agility. We built the training school that you're seeing here in 1985. So in order to get to the point where I built my own training school, I first became a trainer. And then I expanded that. And then luckily people started asking me to do more. And I ended up buying a kennel with a training school on top of it and a pet cemetery and grooming. And then it grew. And so then I built the building in 1985. And through all of that, you were constantly learning and growing. And I would say, and then we expanded to a humane society and put a big training school in there. And then we built our first store. So my husband is Chuck, and we have Chuck and Don's Pet Food Outlet, which he started and grew to 44 stores. And he now just retired at 82. It took him a while to retire. And so the structure of building businesses, expanding and growing it, all made it a very good background for what I was going to do in the future for AKC. In the beginning, Chuck and I did all the teaching, and we taught constantly, day and night. And then we started adding trainers, so it was more and more. I would say maybe at the heyday, we were going through 1,000 dogs a week, okay? That was at the heyday of 3 training schools. And then I sold this in 2005, simply just by, you can only do so many hours a day of work. And so to a friend. And yeah, it has been a long venture that's been wonderful. My hobby became my job. I never thought I was starting a program for AKC when I first started out. We should have kept my husband here if we're going to talk about the pet food. He is Chuck of Chuck and Don's. We started that first store because everybody would say, gee, we need dog food, can we order in bulk? And so Chuck would do it, and then pretty soon we're having a pallet, and then several pallets, and then a truckload. And he finally said, I think I'm going to open a pet store, which he did. And the first pet store, we had a training school and we had a pet store. And so it both became very successful. We certainly had competition from the big dog food companies, and he never worried about that. He'd go and put his store right across the street from them and succeed greatly because we knew the dog community, we competed in the dog community. We never had to advertise because it was by word of mouth, and he grew that business greatly. Not only Minnesota, in Kansas, in Wisconsin, and then finally it was 44 stores. I was very busy with AKC, he was very busy with the stores. But I will tell you, one of the reasons I could continue to do all I did with that is he always drove me to the airport and he always picked me up. And it made travel so much easier. But when he got 80, I said, it's time to think about not working anymore. And so he did finally sell it. In fact, it just got complete. He's 82. It just got completed actually now. So yes, we were very successful in the pet food industry, but I believe we were successful because of the hands-on knowing everybody. Very supportive of all the clubs, gave many, still do, they give many things to clubs. They sponsor many things, do a lot of good things for rescue groups and all. So they're very active in the dog community. Three weeks after 9/11, we went to Portugal to compete. We had police escorts. They bomb-swept restaurants before we went into it. And we won gold and stood up on that platform and played our national anthem. It makes me so choke up. You have to understand, I was there at 9/11. I was speaking to the delegates. And Ron Menaker came up and tapped me on the shoulder and said, I have to interrupt you. Pat Krause and I were speaking to over 400 delegates in New Jersey at the motel. And Dennis Sprung and Ron Menaker walked up behind us and said, we have to interrupt you. And they said, we have something to tell everybody. And so, of course, it was that the Twin Towers were out my hotel room in the morning. And when I went back to my room, there were no Twin Towers. And AKC set up a war room at the hotel with all the military with big guns and the dogs bomb sweeping the hotel and up on the roof and with all the machine guns and whatever, and we're in the hotel and you can't go anywhere, they can't get food. There was one, our CFO had a car, and in that was our only transportation, but you really couldn't go anywhere and you couldn't get gas. And one of the AKC employees couldn't go home and she was diabetic and she needed to go get medicine, but a lot of people would not go. So I went with her, our CFO, and one other ex-Navy man that was a director at AKC. And the four of us got in that car and went to an area in New Jersey that probably wasn't the safest area to go in, but we got her medicine and we came back. They went in to get tickets to try and get employees back to North Carolina. He got tickets after a very arduous, hard time. And so he was going to take the train home the next day. So I asked for the car, even though it's not in my name, but it was, you couldn't get a car otherwise. And so I asked the four delegates, do you want to, from Minnesota, I said, do you want to go with me? I am driving back to Minnesota. And they said, no, we're not going anywhere. So one of my friends that was also a delegate from Nebraska said, you're not going alone, I'll go with you. And so we got in that car and you had to weave around semis that were just abandoned because they didn't have gas and no map. I just said to somebody, what direction is Pennsylvania? And they pointed, and that's how I got in the car and drove. Then I got behind a truck and I thought, he must know where he's going. It says Ohio on his license plate. And that's how I got to Ohio to get gas and sleep a couple hours and get back in the car and get back to Minnesota. And it was hard to come back home and people watched it on TV, but it was really hard to know the trauma of it, the 4 days of the trauma of it, to know what people actually went through. And it's coming up, 9/11 is coming up. Always an emotional time, always. I think at age 78, to be able to still run and fly ball, show competitively in obedience, and disc dog and dock diving and nose work is a special ability to keep on moving and do a lot. This is Mercury. I don't know why at 78 I can't run fast, but my dog certainly can run fast. Okay. And you know, he's a pretty typical border collie, very full of energy, very trainable. He's very protective, but he's wonderful with all my grandkids and other kids. And people send me their puppies to spend a night or two so he can help socialize them. So he's actually a perfect dog for an older woman. He has one more leg to get for his CDX, and he's trained through utility, and we'll be going into that. And so I started not knowing anything on my first German Shepherd through CDX, through physical disabilities he had. We couldn't go further than that. And then after that, it's always been put a utility degree on my dog, and that was before the Obedience Trial Championship. And so then when that came to be, I had my Golden and I wanted that. But when they wanted me to go to work full time, I could no longer show an obedience. So I said, the minute I get the last point for my OTCH, I will come to work for you. And so that's what we did, and thank goodness it happened quickly. And so then I became the director, because consultant, I was allowed to show an obedience, but I was not there. But I have been in that competitive end for a lot of years. We did the Gaines Classic a lot. We formed the North Star Obedience Association to hold those big competitive events. My husband was president, I was vice president. And so, yes, competitive obedience has been in me for a lot of years. Maybe that's why I'm good at fly ball, maybe that's why I'm good at agility, because I had that base to start with. I have had a lot of dogs through the years. I have always tried to have a rescue dog among my purebred dogs. I've always had mixed breed dogs because of fly ball. Very often they are mixed breed dogs as well as purebred dogs. But my very first dog was a German Shepherd, and I showed German Shepherds for years and was very successful. And then we used to compete a lot outside. In California, I know they compete a lot outside. Not so in Minnesota, as you can probably realize why not. But I have to just say that Mercury down. No, Mercury down, sorry. And so I would say that my very first dog was so difficult. He was so hard to train. I was so brand new and he was so big, right? And I learned a lot on a difficult dog. And so then I had several German Shepherds through the years after that. 2 sons, which throws in extra work and extra time. So then my husband got into it and we had Golden Retrievers. He's very successful with his Golden Retrievers, with OTCHs, and he's in the Golden Retriever record books, and he was an obedience judge then. He became very much a part of it. But I always promised my many students I would never become a judge because their dogs liked me too much. So the evolution of the dogs I've had first was German Shepherds, and then I have had Shelties, Schipperke, Golden Retrievers, and Border Collies. And I had Border Collies long before they were a popular breed. Because of agility, I needed a fast dog, right? So I ended up with Border Collies, but I had a speed dog. And I was showing a Golden Retriever, and she won this region's agility regional. So I went to USDA and competed in their national champ in Texas with that Golden Retriever. So I showed in 2 different venues with that Golden Retriever, and that is how I had my foot in the water. But once I got asked by AKC to work for them, I was no longer allowed to show in my own venue. So I had to live via other people's successes because I couldn't go do it myself. but I showed a lot in obedience successfully and a lot in my other sports successfully, which made it all okay. It was hard on my husband because they told him he couldn't be an obedience judge when I was a director for AKC. So one of the big fast things that happened after I retired, he went back to judging. It's teamwork. You know, in obedience, it's you and your dog. In agility, it's you and your dog. And I do nose work, it's you and your dog. And I do disc dog, that's if can you throw well. And dock diving, and that, you know, somebody throws and I hold, and so my dog likes to do all those things. And all that whole picture helps. And success, competitive, I guess I'm all of those things. And we were the champions, the US champions in fly ball. And then that got us chosen to be the only first world team competition in Belgium. And then COVID hit. So we did not get to go to compete with our fast fly ball team. And of course, those dogs have aged out, and now it'll be next year, but our 8 dogs have aged out. So we're working on a new team. But all those things taught me teamwork and how to work with wide groups of people. I hope my best special ability is being a good grandma, a good mom and dad, and those are the things who count the best in life. I have 2 sons. My oldest boy is a minister. I sort of call him a rock star because everybody knows him. He's extremely good. He does podcasts and master classes, and his wife is also extremely involved. So they are well known in the Christian community. Then my other son, who 6 years later came along, and he is a policeman, or was, he just retired. And he was a lieutenant in the Minneapolis Police Department, which, as you probably all know, had a lot of unrest during the George Floyd incidences, and he was on the front line through all of that. So yes, both my sons are pretty well known. And neither one, by the way, own a dog. They tell their children, go to grandma's house. I have 5 grandchildren. I have had 2 great-grandchildren. One didn't make it, but the other one was just born 3 weeks ago. So I have a brand new great-grandson. And so I have a very full family life. I'm very happy to say that they all love my dogs, but they don't own dogs. That was probably not the positive note. Go back and do the grandchildren as the positive note at the end. And I didn't expect to cry. I don't know why that. Oh my gosh. But it was such an emotional time because I had just been through that, and then we get on an airplane and we go to Portugal. You think that's it?
I think so.
Okay.
Unless you have more.
No, I'm trying to think of what didn't I talk about? What didn't I talk about? It sort of depicts 14 years for the American Kennel Club. It is all my past shirts from going to Europe, I have Spain's on there. I traded shirts with somebody from Japan, so there's a Japanese shirt on there. Happily, we made it into a quilt, and it is often a backdrop for the trophies at World Team Tryouts. It's been to nationals, it's been to worlds. It's a popular quilt.